Why getting out of debt feels impossible, even when you're doing everything right. If you're in debt, this is probably what your day actually feels like. Not motivation, not clarity, not confidence, stress. Before your feet even hit the floor, your mind is already busy. Bills sitting quietly in the back of your head, decisions you've been avoiding, and that constant, uncomfortable feeling that you're behind, even when you're trying. You might not be thinking about money directly, but it's there, in the background, under every decision, under every plan, and that's exhausting. Most people think debt is a money problem. It's not. It's a mental load problem. Because debt doesn't show up once a month when a bill is due. It shows up all day. It shows up when you open your email, when you check your phone, when you think about the future. And over time, it changes how your brain works. You don't wake up thinking, today I'm going to fix everything. You wake up thinking, I just need to get through today. That difference matters. Because when your brain is under constant pressure, it doesn't look for solutions. It looks for relief. So you postpone things. You avoid opening certain messages. You tell yourself you'll deal with it later when things calm down. But then, things never really calm down. The pressure just keeps stacking. And here's the part nobody tells you. That doesn't mean you're bad with money. It doesn't mean you're irresponsible. It doesn't mean you're lazy. And it definitely doesn't mean you're broken. It means you're overwhelmed. And overwhelm is not a character flaw. It's a nervous system response. When too many problems feel urgent at the same time, your brain switches into survival mode. Not planning mode, not problem-solving mode, survival mode. That's where avoidance comes from. That's where procrastination comes from. That's where the feeling of being stuck comes from. And then people beat themselves up for it. They think, why can't I just get my act together? Why does everyone else seem to handle this better? What's wrong with me? But then, nothing is wrong with you. You're reacting exactly the way a human brain reacts under constant pressure. If you've ever tried to sit down and get serious about your debt, you probably recognize this pattern. You make a plan. You feel hopeful for a moment. And then life happens. Work gets busy. Family needs attention. Something unexpected pops up. And suddenly that plan feels heavy, overwhelming. So it gets pushed aside. Not because you don't care, but because caring hurts. And after a while, you stop trusting yourself. You stop believing plans work. You stop believing change is possible. You start assuming this is just how life is now. That quiet, constant stress. But then, that assumption is wrong. Not because the situation is easy, but because the approach most people take is wrong. You don't need a complete financial overhaul. You don't need perfect discipline. You don't need to be better at money. What you need is less pressure, not more. Because the moment pressure drops, even slightly, your brain regains space. Space to think, space to choose, space to act. And that's what this video is about. Not motivation, not guilt, not hustle. Understanding why debt feels so heavy and what actually helps people move forward without burning out. Once you understand that debt creates pressure, the next question becomes obvious. Why doesn't trying harder fix it? Why doesn't willpower work? Why do people who genuinely want to change keep ending up in the same place? Here's the uncomfortable truth. Willpower is not a solution to overwhelm. In fact, willpower is usually the first thing to disappear when stress goes up. When you're calm and rested, making good decisions feels easy. You plan, you think ahead, you follow through. But under constant financial pressure, your brain switches gears. It stops asking, what's the best long-term decision? And starts asking, how do I get through today? That's not laziness. That's biology. This is why so much debt advice quietly fails. Most advice assumes you're operating from a calm, logical place, but you're not. You're tired, you're juggling responsibilities, and part of your brain is always bracing for the next problem. So when someone says, just budget better, or just stick to the plan, it sounds reasonable, but then it completely ignores your reality. Budgeting requires attention, consistency, emotional energy, and emotional energy is exactly what debt drains first. Here's another trap, especially for smart people. Research mode. You start looking things up, watching videos, reading articles, comparing options. It feels responsible, but research has a hidden downside. It creates the illusion of progress without reducing pressure. You learn more, but nothing in your life actually changes. And the more you research, the more complicated everything feels. More options, more opinions, more things that could go wrong. So instead of clarity, you get paralysis. Then something subtle happens. You tell yourself, I'll act once I understand this better. I just need a bit more information. Once I'm sure, I'll move. But that moment never arrives. Because certainty doesn't come before action. It comes after momentum. Confidence is not a prerequisite. It's a result. You don't feel confident, then take action. You take action, then confidence follows. So what actually works? Not intensity. Relief. Relief tells your nervous system, this is manageable. Relief creates space. And space allows you to think clearly again. But then, most people never experience relief. Because they're aiming for big wins, paying off everything, fixing everything, becoming someone new, and that keeps the pressure high. The people who escape debt do something different. They don't start with the biggest problem. They start with the easiest pressure point. One thing they can handle, one decision they can complete, one small win that proves movement is possible. And once that happens, everything starts to shift. This is where most people get stuck. They have information, advice, motivation, but they don't have a starting mechanism. That's why I created the one-page mini plan, not as a solution to everything, not as a promise, and not as hype, but as a starting mechanism, something simple enough to use even when you're overwhelmed. One page, designed to help you stop spiraling, focus on the next 48 hours, identify the easiest pressure point, create one real win, fast. Let me be honest with you. If nothing changes, nothing changes. Debt doesn't fade on its own. Pressure doesn't disappear by waiting. But pushing harder doesn't work either. What works is choosing a starting point that doesn't scare your nervous system. If you don't want to be stuck like this another year, download the free one-page mini plan. Set aside 10 quiet minutes. Focus only on the next 48 hours. One small win. That's all it takes to start moving again.